Hi, I'm Sailor Eric, and I'm out here on Silver Heels right now. We were scheduled to take a sail today. I had a few guests that were going to join me this evening after work. It is Lollapalooza going on in Chicago right now. Unfortunately, the weather forecast suggested a high potential of thunderstorms, and it wasn't like scattered thunderstorms. The forecast this morning was like, there will be thunderstorms. Almost, the weather people were like, the heavens are gonna open up and you just better be careful. But in the meantime, here I am alone on the boat. I figured I already carved out this time, so now I'm gonna start working on boat projects and show you around Silver Heels a little bit. So I'm making the best of it, and I'll also kind of talk a little more about how weather works and why the potential, these sort of conditions do warrant some concern for somebody that is on the water, and we'll go over that. Let's start with a short talk about the weather. One thing sailors do not like is excessive wind. For good reason. Unstable air and thunderstorm risk brings with it higher probability of the sudden onset of strong winds. Lake Michigan in particular is known for quickly changing severe weather. Here is a surface area map that Chicago is looking at going into the afternoon of Thursday, August 1st. If you are a sailor with aspirations of offshore sailing, you should learn and understand this type of weather presentation. Maps like these are accessible by sailors in remote areas by either satellite or through radio waves. Frontal systems generally manifest from the south side of low-pressure centers in the northern hemisphere. When meteorologists talk about unstable air or unstable weather conditions, they are generally talking about low-pressure or warm air masses, because warm air tends to rise and is prone to hold more moisture. The warm air cools as it rises, and temperature decreases with altitude. This causes the moisture to condense. Condensing moisture turns into clouds, which generally culminates into rain. Severe or extreme cases of this warm air rising results in the moisture forming ice crystals due to the height at which it rises, and the friction and reaction caused amongst these small ice crystals is what causes lightning. Thunderstorm clouds generally last around 30 minutes and circulate warm air upward while cool air shoots down out of these clouds. That cold air shooting out of the storm clouds at high velocity is one thing that sailors want to be aware of and to avoid if possible. All right, one thing we want to accomplish is moving this whisker pole. That's a whisker pole, which we will discuss. We're going to move that so that it is stored on the mast, which you will see shortly. A whisker pole allows a sailor to stabilize a sail on a particular location that it would not otherwise normally sit. It can also serve as a spinnaker pole. In both cases, the pole creates a stabilizing effect on keeping the sail full and in place. All right, you can see that I've tidied up this halyard line for the staysail. It's nice and secure here. It's cleated off down below. And now I'm going to repurpose and use this contraption, which is going to raise and store my whisker pole. I'm going to attach the whisker pole to this ring, bring it all the way up, and then attach the bottom to this point here. And that's going to properly store the whisker pole and get it off this deck. But you can see the jaws are now snapped onto the ring, right? I just pull this little lever down here, which opens up the jaws, and I let it ride back down. And I can start pulling to raise it up, which I will bring up all the way. I will pause and show you how far up it's going. Okay, almost all the way up. Nothing ever goes according to plan, and I'm having a hard time getting this side of the jaws to open. Maybe a little corrosion. So I brought some pliers and some anti-corrosive lube to put on that once I get it loosened. Gonna work on that now. Okay, you can see I was able to pull this thing up. Now I'm gonna put a little bit of degreaser, which is a big gloopy mess here, as you can see, but just a little dab. Just a little dab. That's plenty. More than enough. Now I'm gonna work that in. All right, this degreaser is messy. Gotta be careful not to get it on me too much, get it on my shirt. But you can see now that if I get a good hold of this with the pliers, it's working pretty good. So that did its job. Now I'm going to finish hanging this. All right, that's hung. That's the way it should be. Now I'll just tighten everything up. Okay. Everything's stowed. And that is one less thing on the deck. Anything loose on the deck is a hazard. So we're gonna clean up our tools and we're gonna put those away. And it's one less thing that if this boat rocking and rolling in the waves, that it's one less thing on the deck that could be bouncing around and causing damage, or we'd have to deal with it on the fly. It's just nice and tidy when it's stowed properly. I'm gonna continue to work on projects here, but it's hot. I'd say it's 90 degrees. The humidity is palpable, and I can understand why they were concerned about thunderstorms. I'm sure this hot air rises and can act as fuel for what could be a thunderstorm. But we'll see what happens. I'm gonna be out here for a little while longer. Next thing to fix is this gauge, which, to my chagrin, since I've owned it, has not really worked properly. It's a battery gauge that will serve the cockpit well. If I'm out here at 3 a.m. in the morning, I'm the only one out here, I want to be able to know what the batteries are looking like and what the amperage draw is, which this gauge will give me. I installed it during the winter, and now the thing freezes after about 5 minutes of being on. And according to support, it needs a firmware upgrade, which I have. The gotchas is that they send the firmware in a zip file. You've got to extract the one file that's pertinent to your gauge out of that zip, which has a bunch of different firmware versions. You grab the one you need, you put it on a thumb drive that has to be 32 gigabytes or less. And it has to be on a FAT32, not FAT, but FAT32 file system. So all that needs to be complied with. You have to have a dongle that converts USB to micro USB or micro C. I think it's micro. The really small ones that predated the Android phones. So I've got a dongle that I think will work for this, and we're going to test it out now. All right, I have the dongle here. The dongle is USB to Android plug, which I think is USB-C. And then this extra little attachment goes on, and that should plug into the back of this gauge, which I think is micro USB. And I have a formatted on FAT32 1 gigabyte thumb drive. The last time I tried this, I had a like 64 gigabyte. So I'm going to attach this. Hopefully that fits properly. That's as far as it'll go in. So hopefully that'll work. I'm a little nervous because it doesn't seem to want to sit nice and flush. But we'll give that a go. I've got a backup. So this one also has a single file on it, which is the firmware file. Perhaps I'll just plug that in and see how that looks. Oh, that goes a little flusher. I think I'm going to try this one. And now we will see if this works. I'll go down below and plug all this in, and we'll power it up, or at least I'll get ready to plug it in. Maybe I'll power it up first. Now, before I proceed to show you what's next, let's cut back to last week where we were underway, and I attempted to do this same fix. See that? There you go, that's in. It's in like this. Got that? Now I don't want anything connected to it, and I'm going to turn on the power. Okay. And so now it's ready up there to tell it to pull. This came out. These guys came out. I'm going to have to do this some other time. See, these guys came out of the... Yeah. So I gotta hook those back in. So it's not going to be a today thing. Son of a bitch, always something. You can go ahead and stop. All right, that's powered up. Powered up. It looks good. I can see it over here. All right. I am going to use the menu, which you're not going to be able to see very well. And I am going to select the firmware, install. Are you sure you want to update the flash drive? Insert USB. Yes. Oh, I see a flashing light. That is a good sign. Flash success. Press any key to resume. Oh my goodness. It's been like 5 months. Holy moly. That feels good. It's like anything else, you know, it requires a lot of iterations and patience, but ultimately, if you have the right tools, you have the right gear, you read the instructions, which sometimes I neglect to do or kind of rush through, things work out. I just got back from a day of sailing and I have some good on the water footage for my next video. If you've watched this video until the end, please like and subscribe to support this channel and view future content. I'm also very interested to hear what you have to say in the comments, so please leave comments for this or any other videos. I can improve my content and give you more of what you're interested in. I've also left some links in the video description. The first relative to the Blue Seas battery gauge, which I spoke about earlier. I really do appreciate that gauge, even though I had to upgrade the firmware. It wasn't quick and easy. But that gauge, for somebody short-handed, single-handed, being aware of what's going on with the electrical system, with amps in, amps out, bank, that's important to understand. It's so extremely helpful, and I like that gauge. It's working very well since I upgraded the firmware. Anti-seizing lubricant is a link as well. You got to have that on your boat. Things corrode, latches, fasteners. Without preventive attention, those things can seize up. So anti-seize is important. And the last link is about a book relative to weather. I learned a lot about weather from David Burch's Modern Marine Weather. That book has excellent illustrations, examples, content, something I've read twice. You should have a copy, even if you're a day sailor. Really good, explicit understanding of the weather. Until next time, thanks for watching.